Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Super Bowl is set. We'll touch on that. The Bengals. Who would have thought? I was just talking to one of our big sports guys. I go, come on, guys. Doesn't he look like Kevin from Home Alone? Like if Kevin grew up and wasn't Macaulay Culkin, you'd be like, oh, my God, that's Kevin from Home Alone. That's the quarterback of the Burrows, Joe Burrow. He led what is just I don't think Cincinnati had quite a weekend. They lost Dr. Johnny Fever, but they're going to the Super Bowl. And the Rams last night took care of business in what was a scrappy game. Before we do any of that, though, I started talking last week about this. And it's so funny because you can't post anything anywhere. You can't ask any questions anymore when it comes to a differing opinion. Because the far right, and far left have held everybody else hostage. And that's a sad thing. It really is. It's embarrassing that we can't have a conversation. It's embarrassing that we can't sit down. You know, one of the reasons that somebody like Joe Rogan has taken off, and one of the reasons that for Howard Stern was so big is he had conversations with people. Now, Sterns were a lot less all over the place, but he had conversations with individuals. Joe Rogan has conversations with people. Because of two conversations, people go after Joe Rogan. And it's not just this one. Let's be real. The people at Spotify that work there, not the people that signed him, not the people that see the value in him, but the people that work there, they're triggered by him. They don't like him. He's all disinformation and stuff. So he finally, which is something he normally doesn't do, he addressed the issue.
The podcast has been accused of spreading dangerous misinformation, specifically about two episodes, one with Dr. Peter McCullough and one with Dr. Robert Malone. Dr. Peter McCullough is a cardiologist, and he is the most published physician in his field in history. Dr. Robert Malone owns 9 patents on the creation of mRNA vaccine technology and is at least partially responsible for the creation of the technology that led to mRNA vaccines. Both these people are very highly credentialed, very intelligent, very accomplished people, and they have an opinion that's different from the mainstream narrative. I wanted to hear what their opinion is.
Yeah, and by the way, everybody said, oh, well, it's an opinion. It's opinion based on the facts that they see comparatively to everybody else's, which is settled science, except for the part where anything is ever settled. Dr. McCullough tweeted, when I went on Rogan, I brought my laptop. We went over my grand round slides. Every point was cited and referenced, either preprint or PubMed. Spotify never contacted me for slides, which is freely available to the adjudicate with their doctors. Bring it on, Spotify. Translation, I've got all my information. If you want to fact check me, here's my information. We don't get that always. You know that, and I know that. I'm not saying what they're saying is right, but there's nothing wrong with hearing another side. There is nothing wrong with hearing another side. But we have a world that we live in now. Hearing another side is a problem. Hearing another side, if they don't like it, is misinformation. Hearing another side, if the groupthink feels that it challenges something of their beliefs, and both sides do it, but in this particular case, we know what we're talking about, it is somehow inherently wrong and should be shut up. And we all know that so much of what we've heard over the last, 28 months has been a bunch of crap.
Those episodes were labeled as being dangerous. They had dangerous misinformation in them. The problem I have with the term misinformation, especially today, is that many of the things that we thought of as misinformation just a short while ago are now accepted as fact. Like, for instance, 8 months ago, if you said, if you get vaccinated, you can still catch COVID and you can still spread COVID, you would be removed from social media. They would ban you from certain platforms. Now, that's accepted as fact.
That's right. That's accepted as fact. The mask We all talked, like at the beginning of this thing, remember the mask thing? And they're like, well, these things are so small that they're going to go right through any kind of mask and everything. But everybody needs to mask up. Unless you have an N95, they won't work. But everybody goes along dutifully and does it. Everybody does. Joe has a conversation. That's what we try to do here. I'm not here to say these people are right or wrong. You've got to do your own. What do I always tell you? I've had both my shots and I've been boosted. I don't think there's anything wrong with the vaccine. Do I know the long-term ramifications? No, but I also don't know the long-term ramifications to COVID. So, you know what happens with long-term ramifications? They're long-term. So you don't know. All that being said, I always tell everybody, talk to your doctor. That's what you do. Should be warning labels, because that's what they're going to do now, right? Warning labels. Warning labels. Warning. There could be misinformation or disinformation. Warning labels. So when you download this now, there's going to be some sort of disclaimer on this, because people are saying, well, we're leaving Spotify. A few already have.
Now, because of this controversy, Neil Young has removed his music from the platform of Spotify, and Joni Mitchell and apparently some other people want to as well. I'm very sorry that they feel that way. I'm a Neil Young fan. I've always been a Neil Young fan. One of the things that Spotify wants to do that I agree with is that at the beginning of these controversial podcasts, like specifically ones about COVID, is to put a disclaimer and say that you should speak with your physician and that these people and the opinions that they express are contrary to the opinions of the consensus of experts.
Yeah. That's it. Should you always consult with your doctor about certain things? You should, if you're that worried about it. And if your doctor tells you something, you go get a second opinion. But this is why we can't have nice things. We can't have nice things, and we need to have warning labels on it, because so many people out there are idiotic. I can almost guarantee you 99.9% of people who bitched about this never listened to any of the episodes. 99.9% of people who gripe about things like this and many others never saw it, never heard it, never read it. But their favorite affirming news platform affirmed that this took place and that you should be angry about it. But Chad, there was information on there. Yeah. But so what? But it's disinformation. No. It's information that people are giving based on the fact, in their opinion, based on the treatments, as including McCullough, who's treating patients, are treating. This is what they find to be working. And somehow that's evil and bad. And now we have to have things like on Coke bottles that says, don't eat the cap, because people are idiots. Don't jump off the building because you could die. Don't try this at home. Don't eat a Tide Pod. It's sad, but that's where we are. But people are leaving. And they're going to, it's like Joni Mitchell. Who cares? Well, she's leaving, along with Neil Young. The Foo Fighters might pull their music. I applaud Spotify, at least up until this point, for holding on for dear life. I do. But you can't give in. Because when you give an inch, they're going to take a yard. And they never stop coming back. Ever. They never, ever stop coming back. And that is sad. Conversation and information should be applauded. You don't like it? You have a contrary belief in some of that stuff? Do your own research. But if you're going to Joe Rogan or me or anybody else to get the 100% best thing for your life, that should be a you thing. It should. We're not talking about working out. We're not talking about financial stuff. We're not talking about, build a better life for yourself. We're talking about anything medical. We can give opinions and all that stuff. We can have experts on, but you can find somebody. We've talked about this since I've started the show. I can find somebody that will juxtapose any position out there. Anybody can, especially if you pay them enough. But the fact that we have to talk about freedom of speech in this country, it's misinformation, it's disinformation. It's information. If it's misinformation, you would know that if you did your research. It says disinformation. Again, you would know that by your research, but it could be bad for people. Who? Either you're going to get it or you haven't gotten it. Because you're not going to. Or you've already gotten 15 shots and you wear a mask every day 24/7. But the once again, let's stop conversation group of people out there, you're insane. Every once in a while, you know what? You go, you know what? I don't believe that guy. And you move on. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Hope you had a good weekend. A lot of stuff still to get to. We're going to get to some of the football. It was crazy yesterday. On top of that, did Brady retire? Will he sign with another team, even if it's for a day? We're going to talk about that. There's all kinds of weird, again, everything takes a life of its own. Misconstrued money flying around about this, that, and the other. It's this money he's going to have to pay back to the team if he retires now. Does he get it on Friday if he waits? There's all kinds of chaos on that because it's interesting. I mean, you know, as well as he played last year, the thought of him retiring now, that's an interesting thing because you would think he really wanted to go to 45. And he looks like he could play for a very long time. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Calibrate. Speaking of getting fit, speaking of looking good, speaking of just treating yourself better, let me tell you about Calibrate. Calibrate's there to help you make a true change in your life. Okay, so there's a real change in your life. And this is something they have been working on for quite a while. First of all, it's FDA-approved medication, and you pair that with lifestyle changes, and you're going to improve your metabolic health. This isn't about losing a pound or 2 or 5 or 10. This is about losing percentages of body weight that you need to. And this is simple and easy. It's not hard. You're not going to be asked to eat, rice cakes once a day for the next 7 months, and then that's it. No, it's small life changes paired with FDA-approved medication. You get one-on-one video coaching, in-app tracking, and medical care, including a video doctor visit. On average, about 14% is what Calibrate's first members lost, and many of them are well over 20 and 30% of their body weight. Right now, try it. It easily fits into your busy schedule. The app, you can check into it as much as you would like. And like I say, small changes with FDA-approved medication that have been, they've been working on this for quite a while, and you will not be disappointed. Your weight doesn't reflect your willpower. Get control right now. Get back in that control with Calibrate. $50 off. 1 year metabolic reset when you use promo code Chad at joincalibrate.com. $50 off when you use code Chad at joincalibrate.com. Chad Benson Show.
No fake outrage here, just the real thing. The Chad Benson Show.
3, 2, 1, it's over! The Rams are the best in the West. They're the NFC champions, and they're 1 win away.
That's right, the Rams in the Super Bowl. First team in history to play. So last year, the Bucs won the Super Bowl at home. They had to go on the road in the playoffs to get it done, to play at home. I think that was their first home game, actually, if you will. The Rams, on the other hand, had to go to Tampa this year and win. They won the Monday night game against the Cardinals. Then they went to Tampa. Then they played the NFC Championship game at home. So they're the first team ever to play the NFC or AFC Championship game at home and also host the Super Bowl, which they'll do in 2 weeks' time. On the other side of it, they'll be taking on the Bengals because the Bengals, they are still here.
And McPherson could send him to the Super Bowl.
4 years ago, he was a senior in high school in tiny Fort Payne, Alabama. Now the Bengals Super Bowl chances rest on his right foot. The kick is up.
Yeah.
It is good. Coffin nails.
Bam, bam, bam. That is unbelievable.
And he has been, outside of Burrow, maybe the best player on their team. I think he's 11 for 11 in the playoffs. And last week, he told his coach as he was walking out, hey, can you believe it? We're going to the AFC Championship game. Then, I don't know what happened last night. I was watching the game, and I did not think for a second that the Bengals had a chance. I thought they're a year or two away. I think they're close. I thought they were a year or two away. But it was that last play in the first half when the Chiefs had a chance to go up 24-10, and they went for it. They threw a little quick out to Tyreek Hill. They stopped him. There was a brain fart because they're trying to call timeout. They had no timeouts. The clock expired. It was 21-10, and then the rest was history. They did not look like the same team. So you will have the Bengals of Cincinnati taking on the Rams of Los Angeles in 2 weeks' time at the Super Bowl. Bengals fans have lost it.
I cried. I just broke down and cried. It couldn't be any better than this for Cincinnati. Finally, yes.
On the other side of the Rams, I was watching that game last night. It was 60% red in the crowd. There was so many San Francisco fans there. But they got it done. Now they get to play in the Super Bowl, and they mortgaged their future to do it. They traded away. They don't have a first-round pick to 2024, I think it is. They have given away all of their second. I think their first pick this year is like a fourth or sixth-round pick. But they went and got Matthew Stafford singularly to get to this game. They're like, we're missing a piece, and this is the piece. You got him. You're in the Super Bowl. Can you win it? 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. A lot of stuff still to squeeze into, more of the Joe Rogan stuff. Bill Maher goes off on the extreme insanity of the left. Latest when it comes to the SCOTUS nominee, and what some people are saying, and what a new poll says about the nominee. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
That is me. One more thing, we're talking earlier about Joe Rogan and conversations. And again, we can't have conversations anymore. Nobody wants to have conversations. They're not interested in, first of all, learning potentially anything new, but they're also not interested in having any of their beliefs challenged. And of course, now they're going to put like warning labels on warning. They may talk about controversial stuff that may be differing in opinion from other things that you have heard. It is best to do your homework. That's what it is. Joe Rogan is succeeding because he's interesting, and he talks to interesting people, and they talk about all kinds of things. He even talked about it. We're just talking off the air. His little 10-minute kind of conversation he had with everybody, he said, look, I'm just trying to do better.
If there's anything that I've done that I could do better is have more experts with differing opinions right after I have the controversial ones. I would most certainly be open to doing that. These podcasts are very strange because they're just conversations. Again, I'm not trying to promote misinformation. I'm not trying to be controversial. I've never tried to do anything with this podcast other than just talk to people and have interesting conversations.
Yeah. That's it. didn't come out and hate on Neil or Joni or anything. Gets where they're coming from. By the way, Neil kind of weirdly backed off, and something that he has griped about is he hates the sound of some of these streaming services, and that was another thing he cited. I think maybe he was looking for a reason to get out of there, and he used Joe. I don't know. All that being said, conversation. That's it. We have differing views and everything. We have differing views in every single thing. You should not 100% buy into everything you hear. Too many people do. Too many people do. You know, people ask, like, well, why should we believe any of these people? Those are people asking me over the weekend in the DM. Why should we believe any of these people when all these other people have said something? I said, all these other people, the media being one of them, what are they going to say at this point in time? I'm just curious. What would they say today if they found out everything they'd been saying was wrong? You're not pivoting. You're not backing away. You're not doing any of those things. You think the government would do that? Look at marijuana, for God's sakes. Look at the war on drugs. They never say sorry. They just continue to push. They never change because they know that if they do, they're going to lose credibility. So you continually push out things or slowly move away from them, slowly pivot from them, slowly stop talking about them, rather than say, we got it wrong. We got it wrong. Because saying we got it wrong in their minds, rather than owning up that, hey, I got it wrong. I've got stuff wrong. I'll get stuff wrong again. Not on purpose. I don't think Joe or most of the other people, there are people out there that they know they're getting stuff wrong, but they're there to stir the pot. For me, I want to get it right as much as I possibly can. Sometimes you're not going to get all the information. Sometimes you're going to get a portion of the information. That being said, the media, establishment, they're not coming out and saying they got it wrong. Because to come out and say that they got it wrong, they're going to do what? They're going to lose their credibility rather than actually gain some credibility. Oh, could they gain? Yes, they could absolutely gain some credibility. But everybody's afraid to say, I got it wrong. Everybody's afraid to say, in a day and age where it's always about being right, even if you're wrong, it's about perpetuating the I got it right scenario, that they'll just let it lie rather than say, you know what? I was wrong about that. I was wrong. So, no, you're not going to see the media, establishment of media, come out and say, it didn't work. This wasn't what we thought it was going to be. You're not going to see the establishment media along with the government come out and say, well, we've got it wrong. They just say we changed the guidelines. Because it's so much easier to continue to perpetuate what you've already done because you've got the masses believing and you don't want them not to believe. Because they're looking to you. And tell you what, look away. You should question, always question. Nothing wrong with that. It's amazing that we can't question stuff anymore, right? Like the whole thing with the Ukraine. There's a big question here. What the hell are we doing? What are we doing with the Ukraine at this point in time? Honestly. This is General Milley. Yeah, that General Milley talking about the Ukraine in itself.
Ukraine has the right to be independent.
Well, thank you.
And they have been an independent country since 1991. Russia signed the Budapest Memorandum in 1994 with the United States that guaranteed the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine. It's the policy of the United States government to continue to support an independent Ukraine in their goals. And we are continuing our effort to enhance their ability to protect themselves.
Okay. Sounds great. Of course they're supposed to be independent. That's what they signed on to be. But now what? Because here's the differing insanity of what we saw last week. We got several different things out of the White House that was different about the Ukraine. Are they going to attack? Are they not going to attack? What are we going to do? What are we not going to do? What can we do? What won't we do? It's hard to think, just like we were saying, it's hard to say you got it wrong. There's no way the pooter moves 150,000 now? 112 to 130,000 in one area, more in other areas. He's not saying I got it wrong and pulling back at this point in time.
And as you know, we placed thousands of U.S. troops on prepare to deploy orders earlier this week. If NATO activates its response forces, these troops will be ready to go. Now, the situation on Ukraine's borders is changing rapidly. This department will continue to provide President Biden with options to defend our national security interest in response to Russian actions. And two, we will stay united with our NATO allies.
Yeah. What's that mean? I don't know. Are we getting into another war? I don't think so. But we seem to care more about this than the Ukrainians do. There was a lot of people in Ukraine. I saw like the man on the street interviews. People were like, not really worried about it. It's what I hear, but, they're not practicing for anything. I feel like we're overreacting in this weird thing where we seem to care more about this than the Ukrainians do. But it's another one of those weird situations where I don't know at this point who to believe. That White House says it was a good call. Zelensky said it wasn't a great call, but then he said it wasn't the worst call. And then they said, well, no, it was a really good call. And we're talking about moving troops. But we're not moving troops, but they're not going to engage, but we're going to put them right there. Misinformation, disinformation, who knows? It's whatever it is with the information they're going to give, because you're never going to know the whole story. That is where we are. The whole story in and itself is tough to find out in this day and age. It's a lot of work. It is an absolute nightmare at times. I will send sometimes 40 or 50 articles to Anthony as we start going through stuff. And then we start picking and choosing what things that we're going to do. We start looking, okay, first of all, what's interesting is always good too. But the other side of things is like, okay, what's real and what's not real? Because I'm hearing something over here and I'm hearing something over here. I found this to be very interesting. So for those of you who don't know, SCOTUS has an opening, and now we've got some polls on the nominees.
A new ABC News Ipsos poll finds 3 out of 4 Americans believe President Biden should consider all possible nominees.
What? But he said he was going to pick a black lady on the campaign. Yes, he did. But when asking Americans, what do you think we should do? They're like, we should find out who's the best, right? Like, let's find out who it is.
Rather than only black women, as he pledged. Senator Dick Durbin, the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, says he's working to get bipartisan support for Biden's nominee and has reached out to Senator Susan Collins and other Republicans. Collins says while she supports diversity on the court, the president's handling of the nomination has been, quote, clumsy. Other Republicans have compared Biden's pledge to pick a black woman to affirmative action.
Yeah. Susan Collins talked about it. You politicize something. And you shouldn't want to politicize something, but you have to. You have to announce now your political intention. Because you want the rabble-rousers in your base to cheer. When the average person, black or white, seems to go, shouldn't it just be the best person?
Isn't it exactly what President Reagan did when he said he would appoint a woman to the Supreme Court? Isn't it exactly what President Trump did when he said he would appoint a woman to replace Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg?
I've looked at what was done in both cases, and what President Biden did was, as a candidate, make this pledge, and that helped politicize the entire nomination process.
Yeah, because that's what we do now. It's all about politics. Never about the end result. It's politics. Doesn't matter what the end result is. Doesn't matter if it's even like we were talking about Rogan. Doesn't matter if some of the stuff they were saying was true. And you find that out later, as he's talked about all the things you couldn't say a year ago and 6 months ago, only to find out those things were true. And in doing so, there's never an apology because everybody's already made their snap judgment. Same thing. When you're running for a candidate now, you say the most outrageous things. You promise things you know you cannot deliver. And I'm not saying you can't deliver, because the people that are, that are talking about who they're talking about, with Brown Jackson being in the lead, if you will, to replace Breyer, people have talked glowingly about her, including Republicans. But you announced your intention before because it made political sense. When people are like, shouldn't it just be the best? Shouldn't we hear what somebody has to say? Shouldn't we? No, not anymore. Frustrating, isn't it? And by the way, only 28% of black Americans who are just Americans, but we have to now put everybody in a box, believe that you should nominate a black woman just because you said you were going to nominate a black woman. That was also in the poll. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. Your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from you. Speaking of Cincinnati, we lost somebody over the weekend who made Cincinnati famous. A doctor. So we talk about doctors. Touch on that. A lot of other stuff. Longevity. 90 essential nutrients every single day. I take my Healthy Body Starter Pack. And let me tell you something. I need it because, as you guys know, I probably don't consume food in the best way possible at times. I lack in some things, and this is where longevity and 90 for life, the 90 essential nutrients, come into play. So the Healthy Body Starter Pack, it does so much. I've been taking it for a while, and when we changed, and I do my morning show on the National, I do an afternoon show, I do all of these things. I needed tons of energy, and that's what this does. I need energy. I want you to go to ChadBensonHealth.com, order your Healthy Body Starter Pack today. You're going to feel amazing. You're going to see the energy. You're going to feel the difference. So what you get, 90 essential nutrients. It's got pre and probiotics. It tastes great. That's the tangy tangerine. Beyond Osteo FX, which is calcium and magnesium formalized, optimized to maximize absorption. And Healthy Body Starter Pack comes also with the Ultimate EFA Plus, covering a full range of omegas, which is great for your brain and heart health. So what are you doing? Go to ChadBensonHealth.com. Get free shipping right now. That's ChadBensonHealth.com, or call 855-321-HEALTH. You're going to get the amazing Healthy Body Starter Pack with all of those incredible things and free shipping at a great price. ChadBensonHealth.com, or call 855-321-HEALTH. Chad Benson Show.
You go, boy.
This isn't about right or left. This is just about right and wrong.
Right you are, Chad. The Chad Benson Show.
Baby, if you've ever wondered whatever became of me. I'm living on the air in Cincinnati. Cincinnati, WKRP.
You know, having been in this business for a long time, saw that he had passed the other day, Howard Hesseman, who played Dr. Johnny Fever. And I just tell my wife, I said, if you watch shows like lawyer shows and doctor shows, most of the time doctors, lawyers, it doesn't really happen like that. None of this. You watch WKRP and you've been in the radio industry for any length of real time, not like today, it's very corporate, but back throughout those days up until the, early 2000s, you're like, oh, that's radio. Like that is radio. But he passed away, and man, who didn't love Dr. Johnny Fever?
Howard Hesseman got 2 Emmy nominations for WKRP. A counterculture figure in prime time was rare.
You got Johnny, Dr. Johnny Fever, and I am burning up in here. We are all in critical condition, babies.
Hesseman told the New York Times that the character made network executives nervous. In one episode, Johnny Fever is given an on-air sobriety test after being given alcohol. Only his reaction time keeps improving.
He also was the star of Head of the Class, and he got a couple nominations for that. And then he left in kind of the height of that show, and Billy Connolly took it over, the Scottish comedian. And he said he wanted to go do movies, but he was a big star for a while. He definitely was.
I am not suggesting that you moon the president if you don't want to. You have a choice. This is America. Perhaps you approve of the president. Maybe you feel that his programs need just a little more time to start working. Hell could freeze over tomorrow. On the other hand, if, like me, you've had it down to here with the president, by now you should be standing with your back to your television set, ready to drop your drawers.
Yeah, they're going after Reagan back in the day. Howard Hesseman, 81, passed away over the weekend. Booger. I tweeted that out because that's what he got fired for. It's the whole backstory of WKRP is that he was working in Los Angeles. It was the late 70s, making $100,000 a year, and he said booger on the air, and he got fired, and somehow he had taken this meandering way, and he'd ended up in Cincinnati. And I just love that when he does his little thing there. I'm Dr. Johnny Fever, baby. And he goes in, and then he comes back on, he goes, booger. Booger to you, sir. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. 'Tis the Chad Benson Show. Booger!
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
He's vowed to try harder. That's Joe Rogan. Talking about the misinformation, disinformation, whatever somebody wants to call it. Actually came out over the weekend. Of course, the controversy's been growing because he had two people on that other people didn't like to hear from.
The podcast has been accused of spreading dangerous misinformation, specifically about two episodes, one with Dr. Peter McCullough and one with Dr. Robert Malone. Dr. Peter McCullough is a cardiologist, and he is the most published physician in his field in history. Dr. Robert Malone owns 9 patents on the creation of mRNA vaccine technology and is at least partially responsible for the creation of the technology that led to mRNA vaccines. Both these people are very highly credentialed, very intelligent, very accomplished people, and they have an opinion that's different from the mainstream narrative. I wanted to hear what their opinion is.
Which is great, right? That's nothing wrong with that. That's what we should want. I want to know why you feel the way that you do. You're a virologist. Right? So a good portion of your work went and has now been used and helped create the mRNA. Your earliest steps in this thing, along collaborating with a few others, you put mRNA. So you know what this is, right? Like, so that's just it. You know what this is. You're not a nut job. Dr. McCullough treated his patients in a different way when it came to this. Most published guy in his field as a doctor, as a cardiologist. So, not an idiot. But they're different. Why? Dr. Malone said, look, this is mass formation psychosis. Then he talked about the reaction to COVID-19 just during the rise of the Nazis. And it's got a differing opinion. It's great. I like different opinions because I don't know everything. Because I'm never going to know everything. If you're honest with yourself, the older you get, the less you know. Even though you're learning more, you're realizing there's so much more to learn. So now, trying to figure out what they're going to do, because, of course, this caused controversy. I'm going to do something a little different here now with the old Spotify. Now, I just want to go back. This is not the first time and will not be the last time that Spotify has to deal with Joe Rogan and a guest. Dr. Jordan Peterson was on the other day. Climate people came after. Oh, these guys are ready. Joe Rogan was talking about the color of skin. He's really black, right? Right. You know, talking about like this is not the first time, and it will not be the last. But you know, it's funny about the disinformation, misinformation game. MSNBC, CNN, New York Times, LA Times, all the liberal usuals went on and on and on and on about the former president and Russia. Did they not? Only to find out that was... And the stretches that they went. They tried to paint a narrative. It's part of the thing here. Is they've come out, they're painting the narrative along the way, and in doing so, if something wasn't the way it was supposed to be, they're not going to say sorry. So Spotify has had to figure out how they deal with this.
It started with Neil Young last week, then Joni Mitchell joined in, and over the weekend, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle also expressed concerns about podcasts on Spotify possibly spreading misinformation on COVID-19 and vaccines.
Yeah, by the way, that's who I would take any advice from. And if you want to talk about podcasts, their podcasts that they sunk a ton of money in Spotify to get them on their podcast, and it's having to be taken over by other people because they're awful at it.
Spotify CEO Daniel Ek now saying the streaming audio service is working on adding a content advisory to any podcast episode that talks about COVID, which will direct listeners to a hub that'll share COVID facts from doctors and scientists. He says they take the issue seriously and have removed thousands of episodes containing bad science, though many point out several questionable episodes are still available.
Yeah. So Joe Rogan took to the to the Instagram airwaves, and one of the things that he talked about is all of the information that's changed, that we've talked about. I have screamed since day one. There's no way this thing didn't come from a lab. Because anybody, if you were just to go, right, you don't know what it is. There's no politics involved in coronavirus. Zero politics. And I said, some disease A, has gotten into the population and is spread. And it's spreading rapidly. Well, how did disease A start? There's two theories. What's the first theory? It was a wet market in a place, right? Place A1. And disease A has spread, but it's spreading really fast. Ooh. What's the other theory? They have a lab also at A1, and that lab works on these kind of disease A's in gain of function research, which is to modify them to make them easier to transmit to human beings to find out in the future, if something like this came along, how we could fight it. Oh. Well, there's probably how it got out. I mean, if you were to ask me, I'd say that. But then politics got involved, and that never happened. But you couldn't talk about that. There's a lot of things you couldn't talk about.
Those episodes were labeled as being dangerous. They had dangerous misinformation in them. The problem I have with the term misinformation, especially today, is that many of the things that we thought of as misinformation just a short while ago are now accepted as fact. Like, for instance, 8 months ago, if you said, if you get vaccinated, you can still catch COVID and you can still spread COVID, you would be removed from social media. They would ban you from certain platforms. Now, that's accepted as fact.
Yeah. And many other things, from the mask, the whole 9 yards. It's not just about Joe Rogan. The reality is having a conversation in this country is good for everybody. You should do your homework. If you feel that you want to get a shot, go and get a shot. but talk to your doctor about it, because I don't know your medical situation. If you feel that you're not going to get a shot based on the fact that you feel healthy enough, young enough, et cetera, and you don't think that you've had it and you just don't want to go totally, that's a you thing. I think too many times we're battling these too many weird things. It's anti-vaxxer, anti-science, or anti-mandate, right? Not into the mandates. It's not just about Joe Rogan. It's about everybody. Rogan has a platform where people will stand up for him because they pay him a lot of money. And he's got a huge following. On the other side, there's a lot of people out there that don't, that can have questions. But you can't say them because people are terrified. What if somebody says that I'm nuts or I'm this or I'm that? It's not about spreading disinformation and misinformation. It isn't. Because if you're fooled by disinformation and misinformation and you're not willing to run and go, I want to check that, then you're looking for affirmation, not information. And that's where we are in this world today. The media will never say they got it wrong. The media will never, ever do that. And the government won't either. I mean, if the government would really say something was wrong, do you think they would really classify marijuana where they classify marijuana comparatively to other drugs? Come on. So instead, what do? They tell all the states, yeah, you guys do what you want. That's their way of saying, yeah, we got that one wrong. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. The Rams are in the Super Bowl.
3, 2, 1, it's over! The Rams are the best in the West. They're the NFC champions, and they're 1 win away.
1 win away. That win will be potentially 13 days from now, or it could be a loss. Either way, it's in their home building. They'll take on the Bengals, who once again had the man they call the McKicker winning the game.
If McPherson could send him to the Super Bowl.
4 years ago, he was a senior in high school in tiny Fort Payne, Alabama. Now the Bengals Super Bowl chances rest on his right foot. The kick is up.
Yeah.
It is good. Coffin nails.
Bam, bam, bam. That is unbelievable.
Yep, so they'll face off. Super Bowl was at 56, 57? I don't know. Lost so many. It'll be very interesting to see how that goes, because if you would have told me at the beginning of the year the Rams are going to be the Super Bowl, I'd have said yeah. If you would have told me that the Bengals would be the team they face, I would say you guys are on the drug. Whatever drug it is, you're on it. You are on it. In fact, if you would have told me coronavirus would have disappeared or the Bengals were going to be in the Super Bowl, I'd be like, chances are coronavirus will disappear for the Bengals get the Super Bowl. They're in the Super Bowl. They're in the Super Bowl. It'll be fun to watch because those guys just don't quit. And there's just it's like one of those weird things where the bounce goes their way, something happens. It's just, they make it happen. But man, this will be fun. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show. Your Twitter, tweet at us, text the program. A lot of stuff still to get to. Car Shield, 24/7 roadside assistance. Rental car for free while your car's in the shop. You choose a shop. That is the shop, kids, that you get to take your car to. They'll get them repaired right there. The administrators from Car Shield, they're going to take care of the expensive payment. They're going to take care of all the paperwork. Your headache and hassle goes away. They'll get your car back to you. All you do is pay a small deductible. And we know with the winter, the chaos, the craziness, you don't want to be without your car. Taking ride shares, doing any of that stuff. You want none of that. You want to know your car is taken care of, and there's a group behind you to do that. Especially with used car prices going through the roof, taking care of your car has never been more important. Over 1 million drivers have been helped by Car Shield. They're the number one auto protection company in the country, and there's a reason for that. Car Shield, best defense against what? Costly repairs that do what? Hurt your bank account. Put it in a deep freeze. So that's what I want you to do. Visit carshield.com/Benson. You're going to save 10%. Look at all the plans they have right there. They got a plan to fit every single budget. They got plans specific for what it is that you're looking for, from everything to just one or two things. Maybe you're only worried about the inside of your car with the electronics. Maybe you're worried about everything. Carshield.com/Benson. Carshield.com/Benson. Save 10%. A deductible may apply. Chad Benson Show.
Set Chad straight. Text the show, 323-538-2423. That's 323-538-CHAD. Someone has to do it. Might as well be you. The Chad Benson Show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
Now it's time to find out what's trending. What's trending? Yeah, what does that mean? I mean something, right? Like it's trending on the old internet. What's trending? Let's take a peek, find out what's trending. Weird story. One of the biggest stories that have been searched in the last 24 hours on Google. Miss USA 2019 Chelsea Christ dies at age 30. She committed suicide. Apparently, she leapt off a 29th story apartment building. She's 30 years old. She's former Miss USA. She's also an attorney. She practiced in both North and South Carolina. Top of that, she was doing stuff for, I think it was, was it Entertainment Tonight or Access Hollywood, one of those. She had a clothing company. Some cryptic messages on the socials before that. Super Bowl, also trending. Cincinnati, Los Angeles, SoFi Stadium. Rams coming the first team in history to play in a Super Bowl at home while also playing in the championship game at home. Last year, Tampa won at home, but they were on the road, I think, all 3 weeks. Batman. Lots of that last night, man. Batman everywhere. On the commercials. Nothing on the Olympics, man. It feels so quiet. I haven't seen really anything on the Olympics. Now, I know it's NBC, but still, it's very, very quiet. Head over to Twitter, where everybody argues about everything ever and ever. You've got more on Chelsea Christ. What happened? U.S. officials coming out saying, hey, you guys, you got issues over here. There's all these Russians here. And the people in the Ukraine are like, yeah, we know that. Just calm down. But they're here. Yeah, but settle down. Settle down. Joe Rogan and Spotify are trending everywhere as the battle continues. Spotify says it's going to add content advisory to the podcast about COVID-19 following the protests that began with Neil Young. And by the way, Neil Young apparently is offering free Amazon subscriptions, I guess, for 3 months. If you're looking for his music, sign up on Amazon streaming service, noting all new listeners will get 4 free months. Ooh. One of the big things about this, and something else, and I was thinking, how much of this is really about Rogan and how much of this is the fact that he doesn't like Spotify? One of the things he said, because you can go to Amazon, find all kinds of crazy stuff too, but he says Amazon has been leading the pack in bringing high-res audio to the masses. It's a great place to enjoy the entire catalog in the highest quality. That has been one of his biggest issues with Spotify is he hated their sound quality. Did he use Rogan as a loss leader? Oh, goody. And Dr. Malone is trending because he's calling out people along with a few other doctors in the mainstream world and said, let's play the data game. You put your data and I'll put the data that I have up and we'll find out whose data looks right. That'd be great, right? Like that's what Rogan should do that. Bring in this person, bring in that person. Let them have a discussion. Doesn't have to all be about something. By the way, if you watch most of Rogan's podcasts, and some of these other guys are very dry, they start out in one area, and next thing you know, they're talking about hunting, then they're talking about, I like this, and it's all over the place, because it's a conversation that normal people have. Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
I'm always interested in polls. Remember, when you hear things about polls, they can be skewed in weird ways. And NPR, 1 in 4 Americans says violence against the government is sometimes okay. Findings in a new report by the COVID States Project, which asked 23,000 people across the country whether it's ever justifiable to engage in violent protest against the government. Nearly 1 in 4 said violence was either definitely or probably justifiable against the government. And here's the interesting, similar percentage of liberals and conservatives agreed on that. Around the office, we were talking about it one day, about violence against the government. And somebody says to me, is there ever justification for violence against the government? And I said to them, what government? Well, what do you mean, our government? No, I mean, what government do we have? Like, if you're telling me we have an overbearing government that has torn up our Constitution and is destroying the way of our lives, I think we have every right to stand up to it. If you're saying it's the government we have right now, then no, that's silly. That's a throwaway. You're looking to spark more division and anger than actually have a real conversation. Sean Westwood, a professor of government at Dartmouth, says, when trying to measure violence, there's a tendency to try to be as general as possible, to try and capture as much support as possible. And the people who are indifferent, who haven't thought much about political violence or protests, may randomly pick between the options. Just like I was saying, what government? There are a lot of instances we can think of where violent protests against the government could very well be justified, noting the Warsaw Ghetto riots against the Nazis, the civil rights movements in the U.S., go on and on. But it's the headline, right? The headline is meant to, whoa, look at the headline. Of course. Do I think we're going to a civil war? I do not. Do I think that violence against the government is something that we should think about? No, that's insane. So we have that Constitution that protects us from that Constitution is our protection from them. That Constitution that is there. That amazing piece of paper put together with thoughts and ideas about this amazing experiment that is us. That thing is the buffer between us and them. It's basically a way to check ourselves. But when you're generalizing stuff because you're more or less looking for an answer that you want, and then you go and you find the data, and that's what we talk about, like data porn or statistic porn. You can find statistic porn. You can tweak and spin and do all of those things to find the things you need to get your point across. Interesting. Speaking of interesting, over the weekend, Bill Maher, who's somewhat become the darling of the right. And I don't think he's the darling of the right. I just think the left has left him behind. That's it.
Let's get this straight. It's not me who's changed. It's the left, who is now made up of a small contingent who've gone mental and a large contingent who refuse to call them out for it. But I will. That's why I'm a hero at Fox these days. Which shows just how much liberals have their head up their ass, because if they really thought about it, they would have made me a hero on their media. But that can't happen in this ridiculous new era of mind-numbing partisanship, where if I keep it real about the nonsense in the Democratic Party, it makes me an instant hero to Republicans.
Yeah, because I think you're a hero to the average person because you have a platform where you could talk about it. And you call out the side that you represent. So I always tell Republicans, well, why don't they do it? You should call out the side that you're on and keep them in check over crazy-ass stuff. That's it. But most of us, the average people, this right here, what he's saying is true. Remember Bari Weiss last week? She was on with Bill Maher, and she says, most of my friends believe that this COVID thing's ridiculous, but they're all afraid because everybody's terrified of looking disappointed, having people disappointed in you on the internet, of which 99.9% of the people you will never see. You're trying to impress people that don't matter. And everybody's afraid to do something. He's calling it out for what it is.
People sometimes say to me, you didn't used to make fun of the left as much. Yeah, because they didn't give me so much to work with. And if you do goofy shit, wherever you are on the spectrum, I'm going to make fun of you because that's where the gold is. And the fact that they are laughing at it should tell you something. It rings true. Normal people read that San Francisco has basically legalized shoplifting. They think Democrats have gone nuts. It's not my fault that the party of FDR and JFK is turning into the party of LOL and WTF.
Yeah, absolutely. And it isn't crazy. It is. We talk about the insanity of which you see all of the stuff in these uber progressive places that have allowed the shoplift all you want. We'll talk about that because Michael Rappaport last week, guys remember what happened to him when watched this guy steal stuff? Well, he went back to the store. But it's about all of the other insanity of trying to feel like we have to, we talked about, was it Superman? It's like the worst selling Superman of all time. Comic book is crashing. CW is trying to sell all of their assets because they've run them into the ground. They're trying to be woke. You're trying to break something that's not broken to appease people that don't use your product anyways. So you can somehow look like that you're a good person? What the hell is that about? Continue, sir.
Members of Congress tweeting things like cancel rent, cancel mortgage, no more policing or incarceration, declaring that capitalism is slavery, canceling Lincoln and Dr. Seuss, teaching children they're oppressors and math is racist, making Mr. Potato Head gender neutral. California just passed a law requiring large retailers to have a non-gendered toy section. And now an emoji for pregnant men.
Yeah. The emoji for pregnant men. Men can't have babies. Oh, you can identify as a man, but in the instance of having a child, that's a woman thing. No, it's not, Chad. Men. No, it is. It is. Take a deep breath. It is.
This is why so many people, by the way, were triggered by COVID policies. They were already sick of rules. Regulation. The Biden infrastructure bill has a provision that requires all new cars to install an alert system that goes off when you leave a baby in the back seat, which is something done only by crackheads and people who sadly, yes, do it on purpose. And after every one of us winds up bearing the cost for cars to install this alarm, you know who's going to ignore it? Crackheads and people who do it on purpose.
Exactly. It's like what's happening in San Jose, right? What happens in San Jose? Now, if you're a gun owner, you got to carry liability insurance. You do, because people who are bad did bad things with guns. And who won't carry liability insurance? People who are bad and do bad things with guns. That's who. Speaking of the insanity of legalizing shoplifting, remember this from last week. Michael Rappaport, the actor.
Yo, I'm looking at this dude is, I can't believe I'm seeing this shit. This fucking guy just filled his 2 bags up with everything in Rite Aid and he was walking down the street like shit is Gucci. Look at me in my face like, what's good? I was watching him the whole time. He had the condoms, the shampoo. My man just went Christmas shopping in January.
Yeah, well, that's because he's got to feed his kids, right? Like, that's the way it is. So, you're not prosecuting anything. You're not doing the things you're supposed to be doing when it comes to criminals. You've given them a green light. You've made them the victims. And then when anybody complains, you just say, well, the store could eat it because they overcharge and it's bad anyways. So Michael Rappaport went on in to that same Rite Aid.
Back in my Rite Aid, and there's nothing to steal because this Rite Aid, like so many other Rite Aids, is closing down because everybody stole everything. And the workers here don't know if they're getting jobs. Congratulations, losers.
Yeah. But when you continue to push uber crazy progressive ideas, which you're seeing across the country in many of these giant blue states and cities where they're just handing out new rules to the criminals to do what they want with very little fear of repercussion. We're going to talk about that on the other side because we talked on it last week about a young girl that was sexually molested. Then, when they went and finally decided to charge and sentence the person, they sentenced him as a juvenile, and he is now a she. The cities in and around Los Angeles County are done, and they're fighting back. And we're not just talking about the people in them. We're talking about the politics of them and the cities themselves and what they're doing when it comes to some of this wokeness that they've had enough. I kept thinking, you know what, we're talking about this week. Here it's tough because we actually have prosecutors that'll go after you. But I kept saying, man, I would love to just go somewhere and just walk in and steal a bunch of stuff and see if anybody's going to try it. You try to stop me? And then I take it back in and say I was just doing an experiment. But it is, are you trying at all? Or have you just given up? God, that's sad. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Shows your Twitter. Nutrisystem. I had a delicious chocolate muffin this morning, and it was delicious. You should do the same with Nutrisystem. Hey, if you're looking to lose weight, right? We're all looking to lose a little bit of weight. Some of us need to lose a lot of weight. Others, we want to lose some weight, 20, 30, 40 pounds. But we don't want to be starved. Nobody wants to starve. That's where Nutrisystem comes in. They don't want you to starve. What they want you to do is to eat healthy, and in doing so, put your body on the right path to losing weight. That's sustainable weight loss, which is the most important thing. And that's what Nutrisystem does. Get this, right? So they got premium meals up to 30 grams of protein. They're big, they're filling, they're tasty, they're yummy. I've had just about everything you can think of. I've had, chicken and dumplings. I've had all kinds of pasta. I've had beef and bean burritos, toasted ravioli, you name it. And I've lost, 11, 12 pounds. Feel great. My clothes feel better. And they've got new restaurant favorite foods, which is awesome. And the other thing is you get a free coach. Shows you how to do all this stuff. And it's so easy to do, too. That's the other thing. You don't have to worry. It comes straight to you. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, all that come right to you. You don't have to worry about doing anything. It takes a few minutes to prepare, and it is great. So, guys, how about this? 50% off right now. You heard me right. 50% off. You go to Nutrisystem.com/Chad. You're going to save 50% right now. This goes for all the plans. So, ladies, if you're like, I'd like to do something like that, that's there for you. But come on, 50% off doesn't get better. Nutrisystem.com/Chad. Nutrisystem.com/Chad saves you 50%. Results vary. Offer restrictions apply. See website for details. Chad Benson Show.
Check out our Chad Benson Show Facebook page where you can hang out or hang your grievances out to dry. This is Chad Benson.
George Gascon is the face of everything that the Soros world would love to have you guys think is what should go on when it comes to crime. He's the DA in Los Angeles, and my buddy Joe Getty put it best. He sounds like a Muppet that came from Romania.
We need to move away from the concept in this country that your freedom depends on your ability to pay for it.
Okay. So he is soft on crime, and that's to say that's being kind. Not the only one that's out there. There's several of them across the country. And the rise in crime in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Seattle, New York now. You guys have a soft on crime guy we're moving away from all this stuff, no bail, all these kind of things. So they're coming after him. And, people, they're over it. The cities themselves. So you got a DA that is, for Los Angeles County that is letting everybody free. I mean, we're talking about, they're trying to clean up Los Angeles right now because they got the world getting ready to watch them in the Super Bowl in 2 weeks. And they're getting rid of as much as they possibly can to hide the underbelly of the nightmare. But you're not going to hide all that. And his policies are awful. So now, cities themselves are going and they're saying, we no longer want you to prosecute any of our stuff. We'll take it from here. You're the county DA. And they're saying, no, sorry, we can't trust you to do this. We can't trust you. Beverly Hills. What? Manhattan Beach, Redondo Beach. Also places, Santa Fe Springs, places where it is not just uber white or it's a mixture of all cities. Makes of all groups of people from the lower income to the uber wealthy who've had enough. Now, there's a recall effort going on, but what really caught everybody's attention last week is the sentencing of a person who his name is Hannah now, and it's gone full Monty. She, 2 weeks before her 17th birthday, when she was still a boy, sexually molested and assaulted a 10-year-old. And this DA decided not to prosecute as an adult, but instead as a juvenile, and said that he worried that she may be a victim inside of prisons, never once thinking he victimized somebody else. And then their response to all of this when people were outraged is, well, we didn't want the young girl who's now 18 to have to go and testify. So we did this for her behalf. Oh, and she doesn't have to register now as a sex offender. People have had enough. They have. So we were talking about earlier with the insanity that Bill Maher was talking about of all this loony left stuff. You know what people want? Just to do their thing and not have to worry about a joke getting them fired, or if their house is going to be broken into and nobody's going to come because, well, quite frankly, the prosecutor would never prosecute it. The fact that you can't say, come on, guys can't really have babies, but everybody freaks out about it. We want a return to normalcy. Doesn't mean you have to be a Richard, but it's time for us to get back on the track of reality because we've derailed. Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
The battle. Who would have thought that we are heading into our third year of this nightmare, of this Kung flu? Oh, Chad's right. Shut up. By the way, that starts this week, right? The Olympics. Well, how fun's that going to be? How fun's that going to be? I don't even know if there's snow in Beijing, with the weather report in Beijing here in a little bit. But we're heading into our third year. We're still figuring out what the hell is supposed to be going on. And I love listening to the juxtaposing positions of the ever optimistic, but never really, to me, telling you the truth about all that's going on. Fauci.
My message would be just hang in there, because things look like, at least for what's going on now with Omicron, that things are turning around. I'm cautiously optimistic that things are going in the right direction. We've seen that happen in South Africa, in the UK, and we're seeing it now in several cities in the United States.
Yeah. I'm optimistic about stuff that won't happen because we enjoy the control. Dr. Scott Lieb, on the other hand, he wants to get back to control of us taking control of the virus, not living in fear, because that's what everybody in certain groups have done. They've allowed this thing to win the day and continue to basically say, whatever you want to do, government, do it.
Just as a sort of a mentally exhausted country deals with this, what would you say about, being done with COVID and where we are right now and how we should be thinking about mask mandates and schools and all these things that people, frankly, are just done with?
Hopefully we have that quiescent summer. People will resume their normal lives, hopefully, this spring and summer. We don't see anything on the horizon that's going to dramatically alter that trajectory. Now, again, Delta surprised us last year. But the situation right now is we have much more immunity in the population and a much broader composition of immunity.
Yes, much broader composition, meaning tons of people have had this of all walks of life. We've got much more immunity because we've had people that have had their shots, but we still have mandates, and many places are for all the misinformation, disinformation, we're going to get to the Joe Rogan thing here in a second. For all the misinformation, disinformation, all the BS that goes on, think about California, think about LA County. You wear your mask indoors if you're a kid, and you wear your mask outdoors. Going completely against anything. The one thing that has been steady throughout this entire thing is kids don't really spread it. And the chances of them getting very, very sick and dying are virtually nil. In fact, the flu is worse. But it doesn't matter because it's control. It's control. So as other places are trying to figure out how do we get out of this stuff, they're like, how can we grab more control?
Our immunity is deeper. It comprises Delta immunity. People have been infected with Delta. People who've now been infected with Omicron, and upwards of 50% of the population will have been infected with Omicron by the time that this wave's over. And a lot of people have been vaccinated. The final point here, though, is that I think we need to prescribe very clear goalposts for how we take these mitigation measures off. When do we lift the vaccine mandates? When do we stop using masks in schools? As conditions improve, we need to be as aggressive in lifting these things as we were about putting them in place.
Yes. But we won't because it's control. And I keep going back to this article. In fact, I'm going to find it and post it later on today. The Atlantic, of all places, did an article middle of last year saying the hardest thing for us when it comes to the virus and all of the things that are going on is getting the power back from the government, who have grabbed so much, who have changed laws, who have circumvented all kinds of things, who have just and even gone against they'll tell you to believe in science, except if it goes against them giving back control, then they tell you don't believe in science. And that brings me to Joe Rogan, which the battle continues to go on there. Over the weekend, it picked up pace. Oh my goodness, what happened now? So now Joni Mitchell has left. Not Joni Mitchell. Yeah, Joni Mitchell's left the Spotify world. There was a rumor about Barry Manilow, but then I said, people are saying Barry Manilow's going to pull out, but Barry doesn't own any of his music anymore. So, I don't know. He's like, I sold it. In fact, if I'm correct, I do believe that Neil Young sold a good portion of his music as well, because that's kind of the big thing to do now. These companies go and they want to own all these music libraries because it's basically money in perpetuity is the way they see it. So they'll shell out a bunch right now, and so Neil Young stepped away. Foo Fighters supposedly have thought about it. You've got the guitarist from Bruce Springsteen and several others. What should we do? What shouldn't we do? And it's all over these evil guests. Who were they? Well, Joe Rogan came out over the weekend and just had a conversation with people via his Instagram.
The podcast has been accused of spreading dangerous misinformation, specifically about 2 episodes, one with Dr. Peter McCullough and one with Dr. Robert Malone. Dr. Peter McCullough is a cardiologist, and he is the most published physician in his field in history. Dr. Robert Malone owns 9 patents on the creation of mRNA vaccine technology and is at least partially responsible for the creation of the technology that led to mRNA vaccines. Both these people are very highly credentialed, very intelligent, very accomplished people, and they have an opinion that's different from the mainstream narrative. I wanted to hear what their opinion is.
Nothing wrong with that. Can't do that, though. Now, mainstream media, they can say whatever they want to say. We were saying earlier. Remember the whole Nick Sandmann thing? People demonized him, and rather than say we screwed up, they're willing to pay this kid, several $100,000 to several $1 million, depending on what you believe, when it came to a settlement across the board, then say, we got it wrong. Because the media doesn't want to say they got it wrong. Because to them, it feels like they the credibility factor. So what they do is they just don't say anything. Joe Rogan is popular because he has everybody on. 1 minute he's talking to a guy about, going out and hunting for Hitler. And did Hitler survive after the war? Did he move to some small mountain town in Chile or Peru or Argentina or Brazil or wherever that they went? And then the next minute he's got somebody on saying, look, I am not a fan of the way that they've come out and run this stuff here. And I think that some of this stuff is overreach when it comes to not only the government, but the way that they're treating the vaccines, and it's evil and bad. Well, first of all, if you say, I think Adolf Hitler died in like 1972 in a town in wherever, right? Chile. People would be like, you're insane. They did a show about it. But if you bring up the fact that you think that, hey, as a doctor, I find that some of the stuff that's out there is ridiculous and that some of it is being abused. And I'm not saying Malone and Dr. McCullough are right. But how are they different? Well, one is fun. One is if you're going to, you go to Rogan because the conversation's interesting and you're going to learn some stuff. But if you're going there to make health decisions, maybe they're giving you questions you should ask your doctor, and your doctor will alleviate you of those worries you have, or use some of those people. And I'm finding more and more the people out there that are following in just everything that the media says about this will take anything the doctor tells them to take. Sad but true.
Those episodes were labeled as being dangerous. They had dangerous misinformation in them. The problem I have with the term misinformation, especially today, is that many of the things that we thought of as misinformation just a short while ago are now accepted as fact. Like, for instance, 8 months ago, if you said, if you get vaccinated, you can still catch COVID and you can still spread COVID, you would be removed from social media. They would ban you from certain platforms. Now, that's accepted as fact.
Yeah. Let's not forget the exalted one, Dr. Fauci, went on the air and readily admit that he lied about the masking because he didn't want people to take masks away from first responders. He readily said in late January, early February, this thing's never coming to America. You've got nothing to worry about. Well, it changes. That's always the thing. It changes, but I'm right. It changes, but I'm right. Enough. Having a conversation is good. Doesn't mean that the person that's having the conversation is 100% real in their facts and data. Doesn't mean that they're wrong. But the reality is, here we are, and now they're going to put up warning signs on their little, I don't know how they do it. On the podcast, as something comes on, it says, warning, warning. There may be information in here that you may find disturbing or blah-de-blah-de-blah. It's enough. I think we're all kind of just sitting back here going, what the hell is going on? Well, this is a free country. Well, it is, Chad, but the reality is, even though it's a free country, we only like certain things. And those certain things back a narrative that we believe. Well, no, I want to hear from other people. And I had a bunch of people come after me this weekend because I'm like, I'm standing with Joe. I got no problem with it. Well, he's spreading misinformation. I said, he's not doing anything. He's asking questions. And 2 weeks ago, he had an issue with myocarditis, and he had another doctor on. And they fact-checked each other there, and Joe's like, well, I got it wrong. You won't find that on the news. Yet they can spread lies about, oh, I don't know, this guy's a Russian plant, and this is how it got there, or this happened, and that. Enough. Enough. Have the conversation. If you're worried about getting a vaccine because you think you're going to have an alien inside of you, talk to a doctor. Talk to 2 doctors. If you think that you're going to explode, again, talk to your doctor. Or if you just think, hey, I'm really fit, talk to your doctor. Because they may say, I wouldn't say this out loud, but you're 26 years old. You're not going to die if you get this thing. But they wouldn't say it out loud because that'd be bad. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show's your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. People are such hypocrites, too. Well, they tell everybody. They run out and they go and they get the vaccine. But have you seen how many kids are vaccinated? We're going to touch on that. Because test scores are a nightmare. School battle is still going on. And for all of the amount of people that we have vaccinated, kids, virtually none compared to even the rest of the nation. MyPillow helps me get a good night's sleep. I love MyPillow. You know, we're moving into a new house. And first thing I did when we have a temporary bed as we get ready moved over is I brought my MyPillow mattress topper over, and it is awesome. MyPillow has a bunch of amazing, incredible deals going on right now, including the Giza Dream Sheets. We're at the lowest price ever. You could check out all of these amazing deals and save big by going to MyPillow.com and using the promo code Benson. If you don't know anything about the Giza Dream Sheets, the best sheet you're ever going to own. You're going to absolutely love this. Grown in one area of the world, the long staple cotton, as they call it. And you're going to love, love, love it. But they've got deep discounts on every single thing. From the slipper to the bed, the mattress topper, to the sheets, to the towels, and everything in between. Check it out for yourself. Save big. Go to MyPillow.com. Use the promo code Benson. Remember, get a 6-day money-back guarantee and a 10-year warranty. Everything's made right here in the United States of America. MyPillow.com. Promo code Benson. MyPillow.com. Promo code Benson. Chad Benson Show.
Being antisocial sucks. Hang with Chad's friends on Facebook, The Chad Benson Show. And if you just need some alone time, head on over to Twitter at Chad Benson Show. Either way, we can't wait to meet the real you.
That is us. We're going to talk about the school stuff here in a minute. That's going to take a little time. Chaos and craziness. You know, Youngkin, people like, they don't know what to do. The kids are caught between. And part of this is, what are you doing when it comes to the kids at this point? And we're also going to talk about how many kids have actually been vaccinated. Because you know, Los Angeles, I think it's tomorrow, starts the vaccine mandate. And they're like, okay, hold on a second. We might have to push this out for a month or so. There's going to be nobody in the building. Touch on that in a minute. I found this. So Jack Sweeney is his name. He's 19. He runs a Twitter account that tracks Elon Musk's private jet. So Musk got a hold of the guy, DM, said, hey, dude, I'll give you $5,000 to remove it and give you advice on how to make his, jet less trackable. Sweeney told the Insider he thought $5,000 was too low for the satisfaction he gets of his work. He says he gets a lot of work from it. It couldn't take any less than $50,000. And I have to be honest with Elon here. I agree. I don't. Somebody with that much money that is everywhere, who's polarizing, he's, I don't think you need to know where his jet is. Not just for him, but because people are stupid. People are stupid. And God only knows what people would do if given the opportunity. This weekend, they arrested a guy who was on his way to apparently get the Antichrist that was Joe Biden, and they arrested him. I thought, what the hell is wrong with people? But when you sit around all day and you consume bizarre stuff, whether it be on the internet or TV or a bit of both, and that's all you do is inundate yourself with that, and you're already playing a little loose to the line with some reality, things happen. So I don't blame him for saying, hey, you know what? I'd rather you not track my jet. He wants $50K. I'm sure he'll get something. And then somebody else will go, I should totally track his jet so I can get $50K. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. School numbers, when it comes to their performance, is ugly, and it's getting uglier. And we still have a mask fight going on. Enough is enough. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
We have done, and by we I mean the powers that be, have done to kids, and this includes the local school boards, municipalities, and the local health agency and statewide. What we have done to children is awful. I always talk about this. This is one thing I will say. I'm not wrong here. The greatest commodity in the world is time. Because time is something you can't get back. We do not have a machine to go back in time. So what is past is past. There is no getting that time back. And what we've done to children in the last 24 months or so, and when the hell this damn thing started at this point, it just seems like one big nightmare, has been awful. And the numbers are showing that. Some students are doing okay, but a majority of students are struggling. In particular, black populations, poor white children. I mean, you can go here and just say across the board, it is, if you don't have money, the struggle is real. But when you look at the numbers, it is ridiculous to see. Teachers have been relegated to being mask police, and unions have overtaken and are fighting for God knows what, and the continual push by the uber liberal to shut things down and some sort of let's save the world kind of thing. It's like, wait a minute, you've got 3 shots. There's no reason for you to be at home anymore. Sorry. If you're that worried about getting something and dying, then you need a new job. These kids can't wait. There is no getting back their junior and senior years. There's no getting back the times that they need in development. I mean, we all kind of, the one thing is we all kind of, junior high is kind of a throwaway. That's more about your hormones and you're crazy and that, but still. But that going from that kindergarten through into that 6th grade, and then watching my son the last, 2 years, he's like, it was start, stop, 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 start, 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 stop, stop, stop. We were fortunate to be in a position where he worked out here with me and his mom and his stepmom, and his school had set up, in ways that others hadn't. But the grades are in, if you will. According to iReady, which tests students 3 times a year in reading and math, historic lows. The fall 2021, 38% of third graders were below grade level in reading compared to 31% historically. Math, 39% were below grade level versus 29% historically. The damage is done. And yet you still have people out there that want to continue to be in this crazy wear a mask 24/7 and you know it's nuts. This in perpetuity of insanity that's being done at the betterment of we're trying to protect who? Who are you trying to protect? Well, what if you're vaccinated? You can get it. You can also give it. At some point, you learn to live with it. European countries are going, we're moving on with our lives. Even in the midst of things still not being perfect, they recognize we can't do this anymore. And we need to get to that point. I don't know if we're going to get to that point everywhere anytime soon. The reality is I look around and what I see is a bunch of people who are, for all intents and purposes, living in perpetual fear and want control. You see that with the whole Joe Rogan thing and, misinformation, disinformation, that could kill people. If you're watching Joe Rogan, you're probably not terrified of this thing. And you're also somewhat of a free thinker. All that being said, you're not turning him to a medical advice, but you want to shut him up. Yeah, because it's the right thing to do. We have a younger generation that is terrified of this and an older generation, according to reports, who aren't. So think about that. The older, more vulnerable are not terrified. The younger generation, terrified.
Older people are the ones who should be more scared of the virus, and it's the reverse. It's younger people. They have so scared the kids. They've raised them. They've coddled them. They've helicopter parented them. They've bulldoze parented them to the point where they're afraid of their own shadow. They have like a minuscule possibility, unless you're having some, yes, people with comorbidities do, but mostly, I mean, you've got the good immune system. To read these statistics about a quarter of the 18 to 34-year-olds being very worried, oh, grow a pair.
Absolutely. You learn to live above this thing. That's what we've talked about. You learn to live with it, through it, around it, and then eventually above it. But what we've done to the kids in this world is ridiculous. I've seen it firsthand with my little brothers. I've seen it with my son. I've seen it with my stepdaughters. It's enough. It's enough. Will it be enough? No, because you're still going to have places out there, in particular blue states and big cities where they have unions who are going to push back and continue to do so in such a way that, because they're not really interested in anything other than the politics of it at this point. And when they say believe the science, they don't really mean believe the science. They mean believe the science until the science changes and goes in a direction that isn't right for you. Remember Dr. Fauci telling us to believe the science? Because he is, after all, science.
Let me just state for the record that masks are not theater. People should not be walking around with masks. Wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better. Masks are protective, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. There has not been any indication that putting a mask on and wearing a mask for a considerable period of time has any deleterious effects. People keep fiddling with the mask and they keep touching their face.
You do not need to wear a mask indoors if, in fact, you've been vaccinated. Good that you're vaccinated, but in a situation where you have people indoors, you should wear a mask.
You are protected, and you do not need to wear a mask outdoors or indoors. When the children go out into the community, you want them to continue to wear masks.
walking down the street, playing a game or what have you, don't have to wear a mask.
Children should be wearing masks from 2 years old onward.
Put a cloth mask over here and here and here where you could get leakage in.
People should not be walking around with masks.
Yeah. Again. Well, the science changes. That's always the thing, right? Science changes. I get science changes. But when you're making decisions based on an ever-changing science, but we understand the reality of something that is not changing, which is the damage that's being done, maybe we need to take a step back. I don't think we will, because, man, I tell you what, it is my little brother, Elijah's got COVID right now. My mom was talking to her the other day. She's like, yeah, his school acted like he's got the bubonic plague. I go, how is he? She goes, he's a turd. He's fine. Doesn't feel anything. He's just stoked that he doesn't have to go to school. I said, yeah, well, that's it. That's the craziness of it all. That's where we are. Like I said, my father-in-law, he died a couple weeks ago. When people found out it wasn't COVID, it was like, oh, it's no big deal then. It's like, really? So first, is it COVID? No. Oh, my God. Well, who cares? No, the death still counts, right? Like my grandfather died in the midst of all of this, not of COVID, but when people found out it wasn't, the surprise. Oh, well, geez, who cares? Oh, that's where we are. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us, text the program. Love hearing from all of you. Rough Greens makes any pet food better. Give it to my dogs every single day and night. They love it. Sprinkle it on top of their foods. It's got vitamins, minerals, omega-3, 6, 9, all this incredible stuff right there on top of your dog's food. You don't have to change anything when it comes to your dog's food. This is going to give them all the nutrients and everything it needs. And I love it. It's helped my dogs with their energy. It's helped my older dog with all of his arthritic hips and his fatty tumors. He's healthier than happier than he has been since we've had him, and that's great. Going on, I think we're starting our third year with Rough Greens, and it absolutely works. They want you to try it before you buy it. You're going to get it for free. You cover the cost of shipping. I think it's a fair thing. It's a few bucks, and boom, here comes your free Rough Greens. RUFFgreens.com/Chad, roughgreens.com/Chad. Go there, try it for yourself, or you can call them directly, 833-MY-DOG-77. Rough Greens makes any pet food better. Chad Benson Show.
Warning, no snowflake zone. Uninformed opinions are in danger of melting. The Chad Benson Show.
McPherson could send him to the Super Bowl.
4 years ago, he was a senior in high school in tiny Fort Payne, Alabama. Now the Bengals Super Bowl chances rest on his right foot. The kick is up. Yeah. It is good. Coffin nails.
Bam, bam, bam. That is unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So the Bengals, the Cardiac Kitties, that's what I'm calling them. I've coined the nickname the Cardiac Kitties. Were the first team to clinch their spot in the big giant game of games, the Super Bowl, Super Bowl 56 in Los Angeles. The other game at night in Los Angeles at the place where the Super Bowl will take place, SoFi Stadium, packed house. A lot of 49er fans there. Game was back and forth. Looked like the 49ers had the game in hand. But slowly but surely, the Rams came back, fought hard to take the lead. Just over a minute to play. Knowing full well that they had to drive down there, the Rams were going to send everything they could. No prevent defense. We're coming after Jimmy Garoppolo. And they did.
Snap back to Garoppolo. Pocket crumbling. He spins out. He's hit. He's wrapped up. He flips it forward. It's tipped. It's intercepted. It's intercepted. It's intercepted. Aaron Donald got pressure on Garoppolo. And Traven Howard clinches the NFC Championship game.
Yep. Rams will take on the Cardiac Kitties, the Bengals. The 13th, which is 13 days from now. How about that? How about the Bengals, though? If you think about it for a second. I mean, think about it for a second. These fans have suffered. They haven't won a game in the playoffs until this year since 1990. That is 3 decades. They went all of the 90s, all the 2000s, to the 10s, all the 10s to the 20, and then they got a win. And their fans are excited.
I cried. I mean, I just broke down and cried. It couldn't be any better than this for Cincinnati. Finally, yes.
Finally, yes. It's going to be a lot of fun. It is. It's going to be a lot of fun. Then over the weekend, stuff started to come out about Tom Brady. Will he retire? Won't he retire? Is he retiring? He seemed to be leaning in that direction. The cryptic messages weren't as cryptic as you would see in other situations. And Adam Schefter reported Saturday that he was done.
I think you heard him talk on his Let's Go podcast with Jim Gray last week. I think it was pretty clear there about spending more time with his family, about giving them some of the time that they deserve. They've made sacrifices for him, and I feel like it sounds like he feels like he wants to make sacrifices for them.
Adam Schefter there. I think that's true. The reality is when you're in a situation like that, it's nonstop. That guy, you're living that 365. Don't play with the kids. Don't see them grow up. Work out, 18 hours a day, whether you're studying or working out or having a piece of cantaloupe at 4:22 p.m. followed at 5:17 by one slice of lightly cooked tuna with Himalayan sea salt, and then having your 20,000 glasses of water, but at the right time. He's put it all out there. He's got nothing to prove. 7 Super Bowls. He was in 10 or 11 of them? My God, think about that. We're in our 56th Super Bowl, and essentially for every one Super Bowl, for the 10 Super Bowls, he's been in almost a quarter of them. That's insane. That's insane. And now the question is going to be, is he retiring? There was stuff swirling around about his contract, if that's real or not real. Does he have to pay anything back if he retires, if he waits X amount of days? Now the rumor is that he is going to sign with the Patriots a one-day contract. That's the kind of deal, retire as a Patriot. We'll see. All that sports is going on. The big sports is coming, kids.
Everything with these Olympics all taking place in a strict closed loop. Organizers working to keep the 11,000 visitors separate from the rest of Beijing, including our ABC News crew. The second we're off the plane, we're in the bubble. Lots of lines, multiple document checks, and more COVID tests. It's a rigorous and efficient system. We're in and out in about an hour. The highway has special lanes for Olympic vehicles. Our hotel guarded 24/7 by guards.
Yeah. What do we tell you about those Olympic vehicles, right? Is that insane that they demand that they get special lanes? The Winter Olympics will start on Friday. Just to let you guys know, 91 countries will be participating. About 1,600 men and about 1,300 women. The only thing they're missing is snow from the winter. The only thing they're missing from the Winter Olympics seems to be winter. And it doesn't look like they're getting any help this week. Here's your 10-day forecast. Friday, it's going to be 37 and clear. 42 on Saturday, 41 on Sunday, 43. You get the idea here. clear with periodic clouds, but no real chance of snow anytime in the near future. This is going to be fantastic. Have fun with your Communist Olympics. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Follow along at Twitter. All the other fun stuff that we do here, the Getter and everything else. You guys have a great rest of your awesome, amazing start to your weekend. We will do it again tomorrow. That I promise. Night, Jack.
This is the Chad Benson Show.